Hey friends, before we start the video, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button. And while you're at it, hit that like button as well. Thanks. What's up everybody? Welcome back to Scrap Trawlers, where we play and discuss budget EDH. I am your host, Andy Zupke. With me as always is your other host, Nick Martin.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
Nick, why don't you tell everybody why we're here tonight?
So this week we are talking about the top 10 cards out of Commander Legends that just make us smile. Everybody can do a top 10 list of the best cards in a color, most powerful cards for a format. I wanted to do something a little more casual, just cards that you just look at, you smile, get to laugh out of you. Okay, so while our top 10 lists are mostly the new cards out of Commander Legends, we wanted to talk about some of the reprints, some things that are really needed in the format, and then others, as I said, just things that make us smile. And I want to start off with Acidic Slime. So every new Magic set has about 20 or 40 different art printings for a bunch of the rares and mythics. In Commander Legends, some of the uncommon cards received an extended art treatment, and it appears that this is kind of a nod to what I would call old school Commander. Old school in the sense that back when I started the format in 2010, these were format all-stars. You saw them in pretty much every deck. You can call them staples if you want. There are a couple of these on my honorable mentions list, but again, Acidic Slime is in there. It's my favorite green creature. It kind of stands the test of time. I put it into pretty much every green deck that I brew. It gets rid of most of the big things you want. Great Henge nowadays. That's a problem. Still gets rid of Cabal Coffers. That's good. It's good Rattlesnake. It's got Death Touch. I really like it. What do you think?
Yeah, Acidic Slime. EDH staple, stands the test of time, always will. And it's always, included in those pre-cons because we know it's always a useful card. Well, let's see what else. What else? Tell us about the other reprints you like there, Nick, and then we'll give them my list.
All right. So the second one on my list is Fate's Fetters. So also another card has aged pretty well, I think. It hits any permanent, which includes lands and planeswalkers. I'm pretty sure this was printed before planeswalkers were a card, so that was kind of nice. Haven't found a way to blow up that Maze of Iths, take it out. If that attracts a player's gonna hit, ultimate their planeswalker. Now they're not. So I think it makes up for its lack of speed being an enchantment with versatility. And you also get to gain 4 life if, your deck wants to do that. I think like the new Heliod might want to run it. So I'm sure it's going to be power crept out of the format in a couple years. But for now, it's still one of my favorite budget white cards. And let's see, we also have the Diamond Cycle. So really excited for these ones here. They used to be $2 to $3 depending on what you wanted. I know the Sky Diamond was pretty expensive, almost at $3 to $5. You can get any of these right now, pre-ordering at Card Kingdom for anywhere from 25 to 35 cents. And I think these are really important too, because if anybody is paying attention on Twitter and the Magic Zeitgeist, Rampant 2 is kind of at the forefront of everybody's mind for deck building. And because that has been known, these were still creeping up in price after the Mind Stones. Everything else was gone. So I'm really glad to see these here. I'm going to pick up a couple sets just to continue the whole Scrap Trawlers thing and save myself a couple bucks.
Yeah, I was happy to see these reprinted too. They've been kind of pushed out because of Arcane Signet for the most part in the last year or so. But for our purposes, building on a budget, having these diamond cards reprinted is really great for us for ramping, especially because Arcane Signet is still, it's still a little bit pricey. Sometimes it's hard for us to budget for a card that is currently pre-selling for like $250. Might still get back up over to $3, after the set releases. So.
Yeah, definitely. So Andy, what do you got? Give us a couple of your favorite reprints.
Okay, well, most of mine are artifacts. Surprise! And they're all artifacts that were really expensive for the most part, and I'm just very glad to see them getting cheaper. One of them is Staff of Domination, an EDH all-star that, you know, does a whole bunch of untap, tappy shenanigans that I've always been interested in but never wanted to, you know, pony up for, and now it's pretty cheap. Scroll Rack is another one that has just always been a card that's always looked really interesting to me and very powerful in most decks. Still a little bit expensive because they reprinted it here at the Mythic level. So I've seen it, like, I think Card Kingdom is pre-selling it for like $30, which is still a lot cheaper than what it was. Rings of Brighthearth is another one I'm really excited about because I love activated abilities in the command zone, and I've always wanted Rings of Brighthearth, but it's always been just a little outside of my price range, but now it's definitely within the price range, so happy about that. Thought Vessel is another one. I don't actually need any more of them. I bought them, but I am very glad to see them get down, you know, to just a couple bucks, especially, you know, it's an uncommon. It should have never gotten that high, in my opinion. So to see them in actual packs at uncommon, I think those prices will go down even more once the set actually releases.
Yeah, agreed. And I do like your pick for rings there too. You know, with every potential new card that comes out, like that's the type of card that's just going to get better with time. And I think the only reprint might have been an Invention. Is that right? Before this?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was going upwards of like 40, 50 something dollars. And again, like every new Planeswalker that comes out, you're going to think of, you know, Rings of Brighthearth and Chain Veil and all that.
Yeah. What else do you got for reprints, Nick?
So I'm looking at Factor Fiction here. So I'm still firmly in the camp that anywhere you can find it, budget card draw can and probably is good.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like Factor Fiction because, you know, while it's good in graveyard-based decks, it's really interactive, which I think it does way more in EDH than it does, like, say, in Modern. So, you know, if you have an alliance at the table, you know, if we're somehow friends at the table, Andy, you know, I think we've actually done this on stream. We'll go cast Factor Fiction and say, hey, Nick, I'm going to pick you as, you know, pick you as my opponent.
Yeah.
Give me a pile, and, you know, if we need the help, we'll just do a 5-0 pile.
Full disclosure, I hate being picked for Factor Fiction. Just because I never feel like I'm good at making those decisions. Like, I never know what to give, what put in what pile, what's gonna make them better. It's a stressful choice.
It's easy. You just give me 5 cards and, you know, put the other pile at 0. It's
That's
fine.
Not why the card was designed the way it was.
It was designed for me. But really, I mean, it's a little bit inconvenient to do over webcam, I'll admit, but it's way more fun than just casting Divination or something. So I'm glad to see that here. Another reprint I like, and this is more of a just for me thing. I'm going to butcher this name, so here we go. Kumbaya Witches.
I think that's right. That's
Sweet.
what it looks like.
Kumbaya Witches. So I'm going to put this on my Witches deck. The original printing in paper, I think, was the folio art. But McKinnon's kind of the golden boy of Magic art lately, and it's easy to see why. And it's really a fun political card too. You know, if you and I team up and want to take down some tokens, we can do that. We can take down an X2 creature or two if you want. So that's kind of nice. And I think it sees plays in Pauper. And let's see. We got Wild Ricochet, which for whatever reason didn't get a full art extended treatment, or extended art treatment. Kind of weird, but I like Wild Ricochet because not just for what it does, but what it can do for your game's narrative. So aside from doing everything that, you know, casting Double Reverberate can do, it also makes good memories. And in my opinion, if your accomplishments always sound better when somebody else is raving about them, and that's exactly what this card's going to do. My favorite stunt with this is seeing somebody cast Time Stretch only to have somebody else take 4 turns. So that was pretty funny. And the last card on my reprint list is Path of Ancestry. Mm-hmm. So anybody who's built budget knows that 3, 4, and 5 color mana bases can be really difficult to do when you only have like $50 to $100. You get Command Tower and that's pretty much it. Mana Confluence is like, what, $20 now? So this is a pretty easy and now affordable include. Gives you all the colors you want. It comes into play tapped, and it has the added bonus of giving you a free scry every time you cast your commander with it, and possibly even more if you're playing tribal. So I think it's a solid choice for a reprint.
Yeah. Last few on my list, I had the Vampiric Tutor, of course. Just a extremely powerful card. I've never owned one. Unless I get one in my box, I probably never will own one. What else? 3 Visits. That's a very cool card. One I don't think very many people were expecting to ever see that reprinted again, which is very good. And last, we've got Command Beacon. That's one that I've been wanting reprinted for a long time. Sacrifice it, put your commander in your hand from the command zone. Just a really good card, very useful, especially for commanders that tend to get hated out of the game. You know, if you don't want to pay the commander tax on them. We got a bunch of people in chat. Hello, everybody, and we had some comments in chat about some of these cards are being available in foil for the first time, so that's pretty exciting to see.
Oh, that's nice.
So that's worth mentioning. All right.
All right. Should we get to the new stuff?
Let's look at some new stuff, huh? Are you ready?
All right, let's do it. Okay. So I'm gonna start.
You're gonna start. All right.
All right. First card on my list is the Amphen Mutineer. So aside from Reality Shift, the majority of Blue's creature removal effects are instants and sorceries that turn one of the opponent's creatures into some weird small green creature. It's a frog, it's an ape, it's a frog lizard ape. So this is a version that is a creature. You can clone it, link it, do whatever you want. You can get some additional value out of it. It has Encore too, so if it bites the dust, you can just exile 3 creatures for its Encore cost, which is pretty sweet. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of weird that it gives them a 4/3, and this is a 3/3. I think it just should have been a 3/3 all around, but I guess that's whatever. If you're playing that weird Simic crazy Florida man guy, you don't really care. You actually want them to
call him Florida Man?
He's crazy Florida Man.
Is it Gore Mudrak? I think his name is? Yeah.
It's funny, when that card first came out, I honestly thought it was a Walking Dead card. I had to ask Erin, like, is this a real card? She's like, yeah, it's real.
Oh.
So, speaking of Simic, I think this is actually pretty decent in those decks. So, green has the fight effects for creature removal, but in my opinion, it's still not where it really could be as far as answering creatures. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of nice. If you combine it with all of green's creature-based card draw, you get yourself a stew. So I think it's a good choice.
I like stew. I'm a big fan of the Encore mechanic. I think it's a lot. I think it's even more powerful than what you might see at first glance. At least I feel that way. Like when I first looked at it, I'm like, meh. But then I started reading it a bit more. I'm like, these actually do some pretty cool things. And I have one Encore card on my list, which we'll be looking at in a little bit. Shall we move on?
Well, what's number 1 on yours?
Number 1 on mine is Abomination of Lahnoir. All right, so this is the card that kind of gave me the idea of what we should be doing tonight. Like you said, we were kind of thinking about how to approach Commander Legends from a different angle. We didn't want to just do a review or a regular old top 10 list. We wanted it to be something interesting, something special to us. So when this card was revealed and I looked at it, I just immediately had just a huge grin on my face. This card is just so cool. All right, Abomination of Lahnoir is a legendary elf horror with vigilance and menace. Power tokens are each equal to the number of elves you control plus the number of elf cards in your graveyard. It's pretty sweet, and just look at that art. It is a literal elf ball. The art is grotesque and hilarious. I've always been a big fan of macabre art styles, so this really hits all the buttons for me. But it's a home run in terms of flavor, bringing that flavor into the design of the card, you know?
How many elves do you think are in that ball?
It looks like 10 we could see, but there's probably some in the shadows there.
Like is this the 3 elves in a trench coat, Commander? Sneaking into your movie?
It could be. Could be. All right, let's move on. What's next?
Okay.
Is this next?
It is.
This
so
crazy
this is
card?
the Sphinx of the Second Sun is my second card on this list. I planned it that way.
Cute.
Yeah, so it's a 6/6 flyer for 6 and 2 blue. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, you get an additional beginning phase after this phase. So you get an untap, an upkeep, and a draw. So when I first saw this card, I literally had to ask, like, I had to read it like 3 or 4 times. Like, what does that even mean? Like, what does this card do?
What does that mean?
So after, I think I understand it correctly, but at 8 mana, I think this is pretty fair. Yeah, it's a fair card. For 8 mana, you could be doing a lot more busted things, so this isn't bad for 8. Like, it's almost like an 8 mana do nothing, right? But the reason I really like this card is not for the extra draw and the untap, but for the extra upkeep triggers. So there's lots of cards that love living in the upkeep. Braid of Fire, Land Tax, Summon Legion, Azor's Allocators, Blue Braids. Like, the list is huge.
Yeah.
But the thing I like most about living in the upkeep are the old school shrine cards. So anybody with the with like a Sisay Shrines deck or my Corona the False God Shrines deck is definitely going to want to take a look at this and try to make room for it.
Yep. So when we first started compiling our top 10 lists, my initial list was actually 24 cards, and I had to do a lot of culling, and this was one that was originally on my list because it just does something very strong that we've never seen before, and I don't know. I think it could be pretty broken, but it can also be fair. I don't know. I'd have to see it played. I'm pretty sure that being able to untap and draw again on each of your turns is pretty powerful. But
sort of.
It is
whatever,
8 mana,
right?
you know, and it's probably going to get hated off the board pretty quick. But still, it's super fun.
I guess you can cheat it in with that Sphinx Tribal Commander, or at least make it cost 2 less.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, I think it's pretty fair. What's your number 2?
All right. So my second card here is Wrong Turn. It's a giant monster in a library. It's great. All right. So this card is, I think it's just like beautiful in its simplicity. Just give a creature to an opponent. Instant speed, 2 and a blue. It's very cool. And it can completely shut down some decks, especially ones that, you know, just lean too heavily on their commander. You know, you take somebody's commander and give it to an opponent, and then, you know, it can kind of take them out of the game for some decks. But it's going to be good in a lot of situations. I can see this one. It's not expensive either. It's less than $1 right now. I can see this one being one that I throw in a lot of decks, just because it's me. You know, I love surprise cards. Things that just kind of, you know, change up the game and people don't really expect it. I think this is definitely that card, and it's very much my play style.
You're a weird beast in a library. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Exactly what
No, I agree. This is a sweet card. It's like it's fog for 1 creature. If you're doing any sort of assault suit shenanigans, I think this card also has a place in there in case you don't have the assault suit.
Mm-hmm.
Like giving your opponent your Zergo Helm Smasher if you're playing like 4-color Zergo Helm Smasher, I guess that'd be pretty sweet. I think it'd be really funny. Mm-hmm. You could give somebody else's phage to somebody, effectively giving it haste. You could just kill the phage player with phage, so that's pretty cool.
All right, let's move on.
All right, so my number 3 is Necrotic Hex. So we got a 7-mana sorcery. Each player sacrifices 6 creatures, and you get 6 2/2 black zombies that come into play tapped. So outside of token decks, I'm fairly certain that most people don't ever have more than 6 creatures on the board at any given time. So it's slightly overcosted, but it does give you 12 power if you can resolve it, which is like really, really good. It's also got the Niels Ham art, which is, I love Niels Ham. It's look at that. It looks amazing, right?
Right.
So it's going into witches. Yeah, it's going into witches. You didn't ask, but now you don't have to. But if you're not playing witches, this is probably the board wipe you want for your Mazarek deck, and Corvold probably doesn't hate it either.
Yeah, there's a lot of decks out there that love to sacrifice stuff and also make tokens. So I can see this being strong. Reminds me of the original Hex card, which is just, I think it was just target player destroys 6 target creatures, right? Was the original
when 5
Hex.
Is not enough.
When 5 is not enough. So this does a lot more. It hits 6 creatures for each player, and you get a whole bunch of zombie tokens. Costs 7, but it's a big effect, so it's definitely worth it. Alright. My next card is Feast of Succession. This is a sorcery. It says all creatures get -4/-4 until end of turn. You become the monarch. So this is my boy, Seb McKinnon, knocking it out of the park again with this art. This art is... it's amazing. This art tells such a cool story. You know?
Oh yeah.
I'm actually not really sold on the card itself, being very good. I mean, it'll take out a lot of, it'll certainly hurt token decks, and it'll take out a lot of commanders too. There's a lot of commanders out there that only have like 4 toughness. But you're gonna also have times where you need to deal with big threats, and this just isn't really gonna cut it. But having that extra monarch ability on there is also really good. But I'm more into this one for the art.
Yeah, I agree with you on all fronts on that. The art is fantastic. The effect is not great for how much it costs and for what it does.
Yeah.
My one problem with it is, yeah, you get like a double massacre worm type effect, right? But it leaves their big creatures there. You become the monarch, but they're just gonna kind of take it because they didn't die. So that's the only problem I have with it.
Right. Let's see what's next. What's next? There we go.
All right, we got Torment Desecrator, which is a 3 and a black for a 4/2 zombie wizard. Whenever 1 or more cards leave your graveyard, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token, and it has partner. Oh, it's just cards. I thought it was creature cards. This is way better than I thought it was. Oh, sweet. So, anyway, so anybody that knows me knows that I love Sir Conrad.
Yep.
And I love him because he punishes your opponents from trying to interact with your graveyard. So if they try to, bog your graveyard, the whole table's probably going to die if you do it correctly. Tormod kind of does the same thing, but gives you zombies instead of damage. He's a Desecrated Tomb in the command zone, which is really fun if you're doing things with Tortured Existence, Phyrexian Unlife, or my favorite black creature, Reassembling Skeleton. So you can make like a small army with like little to no effort, and he's got partner. So I don't know who I would pair him with yet, but I might just run him, as a solo commander. It's sweet. Mm-hmm. And contrary to popular belief, the zombie wizard is the best creature type, and it's not a goblin.
All right, this one. Now this is a good black graveyard card here. So, Rakshasa Debaser, a 6/6 cat demon. Whenever Rakshasa Debaser attacks, put target creature card from defending player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. That's really good. I like that a lot. That can work in so many different strategies. Like it's great for sacrifice, forced sacrifice stuff. It's great for mill. If you've been filling up their graveyard, they're gonna have a ton of good stuff in there. Vayvictus Asmati, the Dire, you know, this is gonna be a slam dunk in that one.
Ooh, that's a good call. Yeah, it's kind of like a I think it's a better what is that card? It's not Soul of Innistrad. It's the Sepulchral Primordial, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's just a better version of that.
Yeah. And the Encore ability is fantastic. Get 3 of these things and get 3 creatures out of players' graveyards. And this guy, this Demon Kitty triggers Sir Conrad like a bajillion times.
It sure does.
It really does. And it's awesome. I love it. All right, let's move on. What do you got for us, Nick?
So, next card is Hellkite Courser, which I know is a it's a card that a lot of people are looking at, but I love it nonetheless. So it's 4 and double red for a 6/5 flyer. When it ETBs, you may put a commander you own from the command zone onto the battlefield. It gains haste and put it back in the command zone at the beginning of the next end step. So a couple things with this, right?
Yeah.
If you're playing partners, anybody who's ever built partners, it kind of works like this. You have one of your partners that's the main focus of your deck, and the one in the back is kind of the backup singer. So sometimes you don't even want to like spend mana to cast that backup commander. Well, if you're playing red, now you don't have to. You can just kind of, you know, put it on out there and get the extra value. So if you're not playing partners, other expensive commanders with ETB effects are probably interested in this one.
Mm-hmm.
And other dragon decks like the Ur-Dragon and Bladewing the Risen want this yesterday. Cool thing with this, it does not increase the commander attack since you're not casting it from the command zone. So that's pretty neat.
Good to know.
Yeah, so, and if you are looking for a more detailed rant on this card, Commander Replay just did a recent video on a bunch of red cards in Commander, and this is definitely on there, so you should check it out. I will put the link in the chat.
Cool. All right, move on to my next card. Tevish Zat, Doom of Fools. So this was actually one of the first, if I'm remembering correctly, this is one of the first cards previewed. I think it was on day 1 of the actual preview season.
Yeah, I think so.
And it was also one of the first cards to kind of get a few people kind of grumbling a little bit. A lot of people were, you know, not so happy with this ultimate.
Outrage in my Magic community. Come on.
All right, so Tevish Zat, Doom of Fools. A Planeswalker comes in with 4 loyalty. +2, create 2/0/1 black throw creature tokens. It's pretty good. +1, you may sacrifice another creature or Planeswalker. If you do, draw 2 cards and draw another card. The sacrifice permanent was a commander. -10, gain control of all commanders. Put all commanders from the command zone onto the battlefield under your control.
Just, you don't even have to ultimate it. Like, you just have to read the ultimate.
This card is so entertaining. Why wouldn't I want to play with this? Okay, so this is why I don't understand the grumbling. It's like, even if you're playing a doubling season, you're not gonna pull this off. Nobody's gonna let you pull this off. It's just, if you have a doubling season, it comes in with 8. Next turn, you got to get it to 10. And then the turn after that, you can ult it. So you still have 2 turns to get it to 10 counters and then able to use. I'm sure there's other ways you can, you know, cheat to get to it, but I don't know. I think if you get this out and protect it enough, you know, obviously it makes thralls, that's going to protect it, but not against flyers. If you get it out and you get it to 10 and you're able to pull this off, my hat's off to you. It's a cool card. I very much hope that I get one because I would like to play with it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. If somebody pulls that off, like, I want to see what kind of dumb stuff happens, right?
Yeah.
Cool thing with this one, and correct me if I'm wrong, when this was revealed, this is the only planeswalker that doesn't have partner with. So you can just pair this up with any other old card that has partner. So you can have a planeswalker and a creature.
Yeah. So this and Jessica are the first planeswalkers that don't have partner with. Yeah.
That's really cool.
I think the only ones are the Will and Rowan, right, from Battle Bond.
Yeah, but I believe those had partner with.
Right, those are partner with, so you had to play them together.
Right.
All right.
All right, so yeah, that's the card that made you giggle and laugh, right?
Mm-hmm.
This next one is the one that made me giggle and laugh. So this is Tago Goblin Weaponsmith. So this is a 2 and a red for a 2/2 legendary Goblin Artificer. Has landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield under control, you get a rock. The rock is an equipment with pay 1 to equip, and pay 1, tap the creature, sacrifice the rock, and throw it at a creature to shock them. So, like, I don't even care like any sort of like random combos you can do with this. This is just funny, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know a lot of people are looking at Krark as like their goblin of the set. This is definitely my goblin of the set. So it's also pretty terrifying. Like, you can break it. A pretty easy budget deck to do is you combine it with Kodama of the East Tree and a Karoo land to like Gruul Turf.
Mm-hmm.
So you get both in the field, right? You play a Gruul Turf, you get the Rock trigger and the Kodama trigger. And you also get the Gruul Turf trigger. So Gruul Turf trigger, put that back in your hand first. Then you get your Rock, and then you get the Kodama trigger, putting the Gruul Turf back into play. You can just do that ad infinitum and just get a million rocks. Like, it doesn't immediately win you the game, but you just get like a million rocks.
Well, there's what is that red creature that says whenever an artifact enters a battlefield, you deal 1 damage?
Yeah, you can use Reckless Fireweaver.
Yes, Reckless Fireweaver.
Girapur Ether Grid and stuff like that. So again, like, you can get a million rocks, and it's kind of up to you what you want to do with it. Barbarian Riddles actually did an article with exactly what I just described to you. It's a nice budget deck with Kodama of the East Tree, and I'm going to link that in the chat as well.
Okay.
All right, what do you got?
First of all, I'm just going to complain a little bit about this card. Why doesn't it say Landfall? We just had another Zendikar set. Why couldn't they put Landfall on here? Did they run out of room for the text? Come on.
This is a beginner draft set.
It's
Andy.
What? No, it isn't.
They had to.
You're full of crap. You're full of crap. All right, let's move on to my cool card.
Ooh.
Explosion of Riches. Okay, this is a sorcery for 5 and red. Draw a card. Then each other player may draw a card. Whenever a card is drawn this way, Explosion of Riches deals 5 damage to target opponent chosen at random from among your opponents. Okay, so this card is silly fun. I kind of compare it to like the temptation cards, like Tempt with Discovery, for instance. So, when you play those, most opponents are going to say no because it just helps you too much, right? To get an extra land. But if they say yes to this, it's not really helping you. It's potentially hurting themselves or another opponent. So there's like a 1 in 3 chance they'll get hurt, which is still good odds, right?
I would take that every time.
Assuming all players are still in the game, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, this card isn't like fantastic, but it has a lot of It has a lot of potential to be just a draw 1 card, deal 5 damage, because other people might just say no, and those people are just not fun. But still, I think it's cool, and I'm looking forward to playing it.
Definitely. Now, one thing you can do with this card, right, is you can pair it with Fiery Emancipation and potentially just do 15.
Yeah. Yes.
Uh-oh.
What's up?
Oh, my screen just went away. Okay, sweet.
No, I still got you, and I hear you.
All right. Well, my stuff just went away. There we go. Okay, cool. So, yeah, should we go to the next card?
I don't know. This one's kind of scary. It's big. Wow.
It's sweet. It's the Apex Devastator. So, oh man, this whole thing is just not working for me. Okay, so it's 8 and double green for a 10/10. It's a Chimera Hydra. It's got Cascade 4 times. So we got Cascade for days. 4 days of Cascade. It's probably going to take you that long to resolve everything, but I'm a Johnny and a Timmy, so this card is like right up my alley. It doesn't have any natural evasion, which is perfectly fine.
Oh, God.
But I think the real fun is just trying to resolve it, because you don't know what you're going to get. Like, you're just going to get stuff. Stuff? I don't know. You can stack the top of your deck with Scroll Rack. Maybe you can cascade into other Cascade cards, or you know, just draw a million cards with any sort of value that you get. It's going to be a good time, and I really want to put this on my Huo 2-0 deck.
Yeah. So this was another card that was originally on my list as well, just because it's crazy. 4 Cascades. I've never played with Cascade, but I can imagine this is silly. This is very silly, but I love it. I hope I get one. All right. Just want to take a minute to say hello to everybody who has joined us in chat. Got some good conversations going on. Say hi to Lenny, Aaron, Max, Dan.
Hi, everybody.
Chris was here too. Chris VD. Let's move on. Next card.
It's that other one.
Krark the Thumbless. Okay, so part of the genius of this set was its very deep dive into lore, which makes a lot of people very happy. There's a lot of Vorthos people out there just a lot of people out there who just love the lore. That's not really me so much. I don't really pay attention to it, but I do very much appreciate that Krark is thumbless, because we have 2 cards with Krark's thumbs on them. Krark's thumb and Krark's other thumb. But the effect is awesome too. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, flip a coin. If you lose a flip, return that spell to its owner's hand. If you win the flip, copy that spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy. That's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So you can do the flavor win. If your play group allows the silver bordered cards, what you do is you get both thumbs in the deck.
Yeah.
You play your Krark the Thumbless, you play Bludgeon Brawl, and you equip the 2 thumbs, and you're good to go.
All right.
Another cool thing with that, any of the new, I guess depending on who you partner them with, any of the new free spells out of the semi-recent commander decks from Ikoria, like Deflecting SWAT, you can just kind of cast those until you get it. Yeah. So if you lose your flip, it just goes back to your hand, cast it again.
Yeah, I didn't think of that, and that you're storming off there.
Oh, yeah.
Because each one, even if it goes back to your hand, it still counts as you casting it, so, yeah.
So if you can intentionally lose the flip somehow, does Krark still let you do that? Because you get to choose whichever one you want, right?
Let's see. Let's take a look at Krark's Thumb. All right. Krark's Thumb says if you would flip a coin, instead flip 2 coins and ignore 1. So
I guess as long as one of them is tails, or, you know, you can just keep doing that. So yeah, that's a good call.
All right. Ready to move on?
I am.
All right. About this one.
So we have, I'm going to call him Jury, Master of the Review. So we got a black and a red for a 1/1 human shaman. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent, gets a 1/1 counter. When it dies, deals damage equal to its power to any target. So it's super simple. I'm a huge fan of the draft archetypes for any sort of deck building. Black-Red Sacrifice is a classic one. Mm-hmm. So anybody can build Corvold, right? Corvold is just like poster child for stupid sacrifice stuff. But if you're looking for something way less broken, easier on your wallet and way cheaper to cast. I don't hate this. It's a little bit better in my opinion than Judith, because Judith has that weird non-token clause.
Right.
It's also counting for creatures. Jury, like Corvold, can get big in a hurry and doesn't care what you sacrifice as long as it's permanent.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so you can't sacrifice spells. But anyway, they can also just deal a big chunk of damage when they go. I think it's a little bit overlooked, so the jury is still out on this one, but I think it's going to find a place somewhere.
You, sir, are in the wrong line of work. Should be up on the stage with your silly jokes.
I'll be here all week.
Right.
What do you got?
All right, I've got the turtle. This card's great. Archelos. I think it's Archelos. Lagoon Mystic. A 2/4 legendary turtle shaman. As long as it's tapped, other permanents enter the battlefield tapped. As long as it's untapped, other permanents enter the battlefield untapped. I love everything about this card. The design of it, the art, the flavor text. This is an example of a commander that really fills a niche that, to be honest, I didn't even know needed to be filled until I saw it. And there's just so much potential for shenanigans with this deck. I would have immediately started building this one, except that I've already built like 3 Sultai decks in the last 3 months. And I just needed to do something else, but I might still build this one because it's beautiful. I love this card.
I'm kind of on the fence with Archelos, just because the potential for field ads is very high. Like, this is the Sultai Stacks commander, right?
Mm-hmm.
But on the bright side, if you wanted to, ignore that flavor text, you could build Archelos vehicles, which I think is sweet, because you just tap it so everybody else's stuff becomes tapped. You get to create a vehicle and get it for damage. So life is a race.
I love it. This card it makes me very happy.
Oh,
I'm very happy to see it in the set. All right, you ready?
Let's do it.
Right.
Okay, so my number 9 is Kangi Skyward. So it's a 3 and Azorius for a 3/3 Flying Vigilance Bird Wizard. Not a zombie wizard, it's Bird Wizard. So whenever Kangi attacks, attacking creatures with flying get +2/+0. Whenever Kangi blocks, blocking creatures with flying get +0/+2. So back to the draft archetypes, right? Blue-White Flyers is here too, which is sweet. We've already got some decent options for that in Commander, but I think the second iteration of Kangi definitely shouldn't be overlooked. They're not locked into certain tribes like birds or spirits, and Kangi's really good on defense too. I think what I'd want to do with Kangi is try to resolve a Dovescape, so all of your birds are just going to do way more damage, and you can just block whatever birds you want.
Yeah. Does anybody really like to see a Dovescape hit the table?
Kangi does.
Kangi does, probably. But your opponents won't. I've actually never seen anybody play a Dovescape. But that's a crazy card.
We'll have to change that.
Sure. Sure. Alright. Let's move on to another awesome legendary creature, Yurlok of Scorched Thrash. This is a 4/4 legendary vayashino shaman. Has vigilance. A player losing unspent mana causes that player to lose that much life. Pay 1 to tap it. Each player adds Jund mana. This is a beautifully crafted homage to old school Magic. I never thought Mana Burn would make a comeback, but it came back in the coolest way possible. Again, we've got an exceptional design for a commander that really fills a niche that from what I've seen, just makes a lot of players very happy. It's not busted or overpowered, but it does something that just kind of sparks people's imaginations and really makes a lot of cards that may have gotten forgotten in the format suddenly playable, which is exactly 100% what I wanted from this set.
The one thing that bothers me is that it has vigilance. Like, as a Jund commander with vigilance, why? Other than that, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah. Good card. I love it. All right. Are you ready for your last card, sir?
I think I'm ready. Okay. So, full disclaimer, this was supposed to be Obeka. I tried building her, and my goldfishing showed really less than promising results. So I'm just going to chalk that up to bad deck building. So I was looking for other commanders to brew around, and then I found Belle Borka, 2 and Boros for a star 5 Spirit Soldier. So Belle Borka's, let's say, note the converted mana cost of each card as it's put into exile, which has never been printed on a card before, as far as I know. Belle's power Belle's power is equal to the greatest number noted for it this turn. On your upkeep, you exile the top card of your library. You may play it this turn. So, I'm not a fan of Boros or white in general. It's just, it's the least, like, it's a color I play the least. It's just not my thing. But the exile clause really got my gears going. So if you combine it with red's impulsive draw, white's exile removal, I think he's got way more than people are giving him credit for.
Mm-hmm.
So you get card draw and command set in Boros. Woohoo, we did it. But you still have to attack in Boros, so there's kind of that thing. But if you're exiling somebody's Ulamog or suspending your own Greater Gargadon, you can do some damage really, really fast. I'm actually brewing this as Boros control with the impulsive draw, the loads of exile removal, a little bit of blink, and finishers with Belle and some big angels. Mm-hmm. So if you're at all interested in looking into Boros, don't make the same mistake I did. Look at Belle Borka. There's a lot going on. Also, Vorthos note, Belle Borka's solved his own murder. So that's kind of cool.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, this card, it does something we've never seen before, which is great. I mean, I'm not totally sold on it being a super powerful commander. I mean, the fact that it doesn't have any sort of evasion, it kind of hinders it, but obviously there's lots of ways to give it that evasion that you need to really get in there for the commander damage, because that's, I mean, really that's the whole purpose of giving it a high power, right? Mm-hmm. But it's a cool card. It's a very cool card. It's very, like, when I first saw it, I was like, what is this? Because it's so unique and different from what we've seen. But it's good. All right. Here it is. Time for my last card from Commander Legends. There it is. Look at that. Isn't it pretty?
It is. I love this card.
It's gorgeous. This card. Commander's Plate. It's an equipment. Equipped creature gets +3/+3 and has protection from each color that's not in your commander's color identity. Equip Commander 3 or Equip 5. So a lot of people don't know this, but this card was designed specifically for me and my Traxos deck.
That's right.
Wizards called me and said, we want to make a card for you. And I said, make this card. They said, sure. So that's where it is. You're all allowed to play with it if you want. Go ahead and buy your copies. But Commander's Plate, it's going on Traxos. All right. Well, that is our top 10 cards from Commander Legends that made us smile. What cards, people in chat, people watching on YouTube, what cards from Commander Legends made you smile? Hit us up on Twitter or leave a comment on the video if you're watching on YouTube. Let us know what you're most excited about. that's all we got for you, everybody. So take care, and have a great night.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Why couldn't they put landfall on here? Did they run out of room for the text? Come on.
This is a beginner draft set.
It's
Andy.
What? No, it isn't.
They had to.
You're
spill
full
the
of
whole
crap.
thing.
You're full of crap.